driving at 4 a.m. and you're falling asleep at the wheel and you're like, oh, dude, I'm freaking tired. Another hour and I can make it. Put this on. You'll be good. Trust me on that. This is, to me, Biv, this is, and what a time for thrash, by the way. You know, over the last few months, I mean, again, we just talked about, we had Testament that was out. Overkill is a new album, which we're going to review on the next episode. Havoc has an album coming out in a couple weeks. And if you've heard Ingsoc and if you've heard Hang 'em High, which are the first two tracks from Havoc, they're fucking awesome. Like, I'm telling you, man, this is, what a great time.
Metallica.
Yeah, it's just, well, and that's the thing. Like, I put this on our Facebook page that, you know, here you have, you know, Testament and Kreator creating albums that make anything Slayer does look like shit. Like, Slayer hasn't done anything this good in 25 years. Not even close.
Pissed off your brother on that one, by the way.
I don't care, because he's not listening, and he's not paying attention. Because my response to that is, well, have you heard Kreator's new album? Because you've heard it, you would think that anything Slayer's done since is shitty, because it is, in comparison. And that is why I don't do this often, but I'm doing it again, because I cannot say this is worse than Testament's album. And while Hail the Hordes is maybe 8.5-ish material, in my opinion, as far as track rating, when you have songs like Satan is Real, Totalitarian Terror, and Gods of Violence, and Death Becomes My Light, and Side by Side, those are 11 out of 10 tracks for me. So overall, perfect score. It's 10 out of 10. This is a classic album that if you like thrash or if you don't like thrash, listen to this right now.
And I totally give it a 9.5 out of 10, so I'm right there with you. I was more than pleasantly surprised with Kreator after giving up on them more than a decade ago.
Yeah.
So, 9.5 out of 10.
Killer stuff. Check it out. Do not hesitate to do so.
Won't look into the mirror today. It's been such a long, long time. Won't make a difference if I believe I'm dancing with the devil.
That was Dancing with the Devil from Vanishing Point, off their new album-ish. I guess you can call it that. This is a re-release, actually. That's off of the album Tangled in Dream, which initially was released in 2000. It's been out of print forever. If you really wanted to buy it, you could go on Amazon or eBay and get just absolutely screwed on the deal. So re-released here in 2017, but with some bonus stuff on the second disc as well. And I know Biv is a big Vanishing Point fan, and a band out of Australia, which has definitely growing and budding metal scene. And again, initial release in 2000, the band is quite different now than then. And, you know, this definitely shows that when you get the chance to listen to this album. So, Biv, I got some thoughts, obviously, but what did you think about the re-release of Tangled in Dream from Vanishing Point?
Well, I have to admit, as a Vanishing Point fan from the perspective of being a fan since probably 2009, 2010 to the present, because Tangled in Dream has been, well, unavailable to purchase since probably 2006 and has never been available in a digital format, I'd never heard it. So that's why I wanted to do this review, because for all intents and purposes, unless you own the CD from the get-go, you've never heard it. And, you know, from a band that's been around now as long as Vanishing Point, well, you might as well say it's new. So that's why we wanted to do it. And Vanishing Point, in their last, since probably the last decade, has really found their sound. And they re-released this one for the very reasons we just talked about. It's not available in print, wasn't available digitally. They decided to re-release it so you didn't have to pay $85 for it on eBay. And so I was really, really looking forward to it. And before I even listened to it, Jason, I told you I wanted to review it. So at that point, I had not even listened to it yet. I don't know if you're aware of that. I don't think I told you that.
No, I didn't know that, but I assumed I would guess.
Okay, so I did get an opportunity to check it out. And based on what I know of Vanishing Point today, I certainly see the raw talent, but it's nowhere near the quality of what you hear today. Now, that's not surprising. They were very young then. But this is not the album I would introduce to someone and say, hey, check out Vanishing Point. It's not what I do with them. Yeah, there's definitely some songs on here and some parts of other songs that you go, man, these guys had talent even when they were very young. But overall, unless you're just a diehard Vanishing Point fan, like have seen him 37 times in 32 days or something like that, like you have the 10 Kids by 8 Baby Mama, you probably don't need this in your collection. To me, it's just not something that really screams of listenability. You're not going to listen to it over and over again. So for me, while it did have some shining moments, not something I would own.
No, it's funny you say that because we've never obviously had this conversation until we have it while we're recording our review of the album. And to me, it sounds very dated, and it is. And the thing that I couldn't get past is the drums are clearly not drums. They're programmed. So I can't look past that. I can't give that a hall pass. To me, I think Vanishing Point would have been better off simply re-recording these songs and just doing it now with their new band. And they did that with Samsara on the bonus CD, where they actually re-recorded the original version, but with the current lineup now. And it's miles better than what they did on the initial release of Tangled in Dream. And to your point, there are some things that are there that really stand out. A couple of tracks they're really, really good. Like, for example, I Will Awake is really different than the rest of the album, but a very hard rock vibe almost to it, but really, really good. We just heard Dancing with the Devil, which opens up with like this really beautiful piano piece. Of course, you didn't hear that now. And I guess Silvio Massaro, who is the lead singer and has been with them for quite some time, really steals the show here. He has really good vocals here. That's the one thing that the guitars sounded decent. The drums were terrible because they weren't real. But Silvio sounded really good even then. Now, when you listen to him and the rest of the band on Distant as the Sun, which is their most recent release of an album, new release, it's night and day. It's a night and day difference between how good they are now versus then, or how much they've matured, or however you want to call it. But, when you listen to some of the bonus tracks, I mean, again, if you listen to Samsara 2, which is a re-recording of the original, not just re-release, but a re-recording, miles better. They do a cover of Separate Ways by Journey. And what's funny about that is as I'm listening to Closer Apart and Surreal, those are two tracks to where I'm listening to it and going, this dude sounds like Steve Perry every once in a while. And then I look, and on the bonus CD, I'm like, oh, shit, they actually do a cover of a Journey song. Because he does have that sound at times. They have, like, the last 6 or 7 tracks are, like, acoustic recordings that they've done recently of songs off of Tangled in Dream. But it's acoustic and not really high-quality recordings, and just so it sounds okay at best. I mean, unless you're an absolute diehard Vanishing Point fan, to Biv's point, I don't see why you rush out and grab this one. I really don't. For me, it was a 6 out of 10.
I gave it a 7 out of 10, so we're right there.
Yeah, that's what it is. Not bad. Just, you'd be better off Vanishing Point here. If you're listening to this, hope you are. You should have just re-recorded it with your current lineup now, with current technology to make it sound all pretty and trimmed up and whatever. This just sounds dated and almost sounds like we want our fans to have it, and that's admirable, but it just seems like it's something that could have been done better. And we've seen other bands who've re-recorded their classic albums, and it just ends up being a better result most of the time with your new lineup. That's what I think they should have done here. But yeah, that's Vanishing Point. That was of Sleepless Minds from Nightmare's most recent album, Dead Sun. And it's amazing to me how long Nightmare's been doing this. Yves Campion. I'm probably saying it wrong because I'm American and it's a French name, but bear with me. He's been the only founding member of the band, or one of the founding members of the band, the only guy who's still around of the original lineup since 1979. Now, granted, they had like a 10-year hiatus between the late 80s and the late 90s, but for the most part, these guys have been around forever. But what's really cool about Nightmare is they don't sound like a band who wrote stuff in the 70s and 80s, and it kind of still sounds like that in 2016, 2017. This is stuff that a band who's in their mid-20s would write. You know, it doesn't sound dated. It doesn't sound like it's very fresh, very new sounding, lots of genres all throughout this album. I was walking away really, really impressed with it, and I'll give you a little bit more thoughts and opinions on some more details on Dead Sun. But Biv, what did you think of Nightmare's most recent album, man?
Well, I tell you what, being a Nightmare fan from, well, I would say at least the last 10, 12 years, I was pleasantly surprised with this one because, you know, when you've been around that long, it's very difficult to continually reinvent yourself, to stay fresh, to stay relevant, to not sound like you're, 74 years old. So I got to give him credit, man. That's very, very tough to do. When you and I were talking about what song are we going to play to kind of, for those fans that haven't heard it, I couldn't make up my mind because there's so many you could choose from. Infected, which leads off the album, is awesome.
Yeah, it is.
Tangled in the Roots is good. Probably my favorite track on the CD is Red Marble and Gold. I love that song. I think it's awesome.
It's like a slow, plodding track to start off with,
Right, but it builds.
Yeah, it does. It actually, you remember Angel Dust, the band?
Oh, yeah.
I get a lot of vibe of Angel Dust from that song.
I could see that. But, I knew that Seeds of Agony would be your favorite song.
Oh, well, of course, as you know. I mean, I'm huge, huge fan of more balladish songs and whatnot. But I really actually dig this song. It's very different from the rest of the album.
No, I just meant because it's about Monsanto and GMOs.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, read the lyrics.
Oh, I didn't read the lyrics, so...
Yeah. So.
Well, then, yeah.
Seeds of Agony, there you go.
Well, no, but what's interesting about Seeds of Agony, it's actually... Well, now, I didn't actually get that deep into the lyrical content, but I really, really actually dig this song, and it's very different from the rest of the album. It's very unique, and kind of... I get a very older sentenced vibe from this song.
Yes, very much.
And side note... Mackley Luton, who, by the way, if you didn't know, listening to it, this is their new singer. She's a female. She's fucking awesome. And
yes.
If you've heard the show before, Biv and I are not fans of female vocals. And not because we don't like females fronting, heavy metal's a man's sport. No, I don't mean that. But we're just not fans of the, operatic, very Nightwish-like female vocals. It's just not my thing, not Biv's thing. You could listen to the first couple of tracks of this album and go, that's a chick? Right. It doesn't sound, it sounds like it's so good. And what's great about her range, to your point, Biv, not to take away what you're saying, Infected sounds totally different and she sings totally different than she does on Seeds of Agony, but yet you would not even know really it's the same person. Just incredibly diverse, really, really talented singer that I didn't know much about until this album. And now I'm going on YouTube and trying to listen to more shit she's done. She's that good.
Oh, I totally concur. To me, this is a CD that is one of those CDs that if you're, like you and I like different types of metal sometimes, right?
Oh, yeah.
This is a CD you and I could pop into the car and neither one of us would be unhappy.
That's good call. You're absolutely right. It is not, it's, I don't even know what genre you really want to call this because it's not power metal. It's not progressive. It's a lot of groove. There's a lot of groove metal to this. And, you have some Iced Earth-ish like parts. You have some Nevermore groove that's in a lot of these songs. But
they just do what they do. They don't.
Yeah.
They don't. I mean, they've been around so long. They don't care. They're
Yeah,
like,
but
they're
this
like
is-
the old man in the nursing home. They just scratch themselves in the hallway. They don't care.
Well, and they shouldn't.